On today's show, some unfortunate news. Bogdan Bogdanovic goes down with an injury at Eurobasket. Going to be talking about how it impacts your LA Clippers on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team on my own YouTube channel, Dime Jumper, for 5 and 3 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell on the road to 8,000 subscribers, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but today I am with the report that Bogdan Bogdanovic will miss the remainder of Eurobasket with a torn hamstring, as reported by Yahoo Sports. That's right. So we're going to be talking about how that impacts the Clippers, what it does for the rotation, depending on how long he's out, and what that could do for Ty Lue. Now, the first thing is just, it's really unfortunate. You never want to see a player get hurt. Bogey has had hamstring problems in Atlanta. That's the part that makes this very concerning. He had his injury problems, and it was hamstring injuries. And the way they're describing it is a torn hamstring. He's going to miss the remainder of Eurobasket. The Clippers and Serbia mutually agreed that they should shut him down. And he suffered this injury on a drive to the basket late in the first half of a group stage game against Portugal. The Clipper team doctors were contacted about this and were consulted on the diagnosis, and it was agreed upon that he will be missing Eurobasket or the remainder of it. So that is extremely unfortunate. In terms of hamstring tears, obviously, thankfully, I've never had one before, but there are different stages of hamstring tears. There's grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. It sounds like, unfortunately, based on the way this is being reported, that this is a grade 3. He's going, like, it's something actually tore. So if that's the case, I would expect him to be out for a couple of months. We're not getting the exact news yet, but I would think it's going to be a couple of months, which is very, very sad for the Clippers and for Bogey. Now, as far as the Clippers are concerned, so get well soon, Bogey. Like, we just hate to see this happen. Obviously, he's dealt with his fair share of hamstring issues in the past. I just hope, he can still be the same when he does come back. But yeah, it's a very, it's tough to hear that. Now, as far as what this does to the Clippers, I honestly think it's not the biggest deal in the world. If you want to talk about how we look, this is the reason why we went out and got 11 players, rotation players. Because one goes out, two go out, we're still good to go. You might have a load management situation with a Kawhi Leonard one game, but someone might actually be injured, like out for a significant portion of time where he can't play. And this is one of those instances. So now we still have 10 rotation players. So in my opinion, and I talked about, Bogey gives us something with his off-ball shooting, his ability to be a secondary playmaker and put the ball on the floor. Um, and yeah, it's a tough loss, but we have so much talent now that we went out and got. The addition of Bradley Beal gives us somebody who does what Bogey does, but at a higher level. And then we have Chris Paul, who does the playmaking and pick and roll to a level that Bogey does not. So we are pretty good to go, I think, overall, if I'm being honest, in terms of, like, I don't think this is something that's going to kill us. We still have 10 rotation players. CP3 has been brought in to do things off the bench. And you have Bradley Beal, who can do a lot of those things. And of course, you have Kawhi Leonard back now. Having Kawhi Leonard back just makes all the difference. So, it could be a lot worse. We are not as, what's the word? depleted for assets or good rotation players as we were last year. We are in a position that we should be solid. Now, as far as Eurobasket, Serbia, they are 3-1, if I'm not mistaken, in their group right now. So they're going to continue to do their, no, they're actually 4-0. They're going to continue to do their thing in this tournament, and I wish them the absolute best. Of course, if Croatia was involved, I would be doing some content on them with Zoo, but they are unfortunately not involved. The teams that are involved are Serbia, Turkey, Latvia, Estonia, Portugal, Czechia, which is, Czech Republic, but they're called Czechia now, Germany, Lithuania, Finland, Montenegro, Sweden, Great Britain, Greece, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Georgia, Spain, Italy, Cyprus, Israel, Poland, Slovenia, France, Belgium, and Iceland. How is Croatia not there? I don't understand. Did they not qualify? That's nuts. Yeah, Eurobasket 2025 qualification. Let me take a look at that. How in the world? Damn, I guess Croatia made it to the third round of qualifying. And then, geez, that is brutal. I guess the teams in the third round of qualifying just don't make it. That's interesting. So, unfortunately, we didn't get Ivica Zubac for this. That sucks. But it is what it is. Now, as far as I said, that's my takeaway, though. Bogey is out. It absolutely sucks. We haven't gotten the official, timetable for it, but I assume for it to be a couple of months, and we're going to have to live without Bogey for a while. But again, we have 10 rotation players. If somebody misses a game, we can still have 9. We are good to go. We are good to go. I just feel as though we have so much depth, it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? I think Bogey, as good of a player as he is maybe our, I don't want to say he's our 11th best rotation player, but I think he's literally, of the 11 players that are in the rotation, the least important. Oh, I see. Croatia finished third in the secondary group behind France and Bosnia. Damn, Bosnia finished above Croatia. They had the same amount of points, but they lost the point difference. That's crazy. And Croatia beat Bosnia. Man. Actually, no, they won one and lost one in Bosnia. So anyway, let's even see who's on the Bosnia national team while we're at it. Like, what? Who plays for them? Yusuf Nurkic? Oh, there you go. Yusuf Nurkic. But nobody else in the NBA. They must have some really good players from the EuroLeague. Luka Garza, he's in the NBA. So I don't know. That's that. But Bogey's out. I think it'll be okay. Coming up, going to talk about what adjustments this makes for Ty Lue's rotation. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401s, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives like me. I did not know what I was paying for, and then I got Monarch Money, and it showed me all these expenses that I hadn't even tracked, didn't even know what's going on, didn't even know we're going on for so long. And it organized things for me and made me realize what I'm still paying for, what I'm not, and it's cleaned up my finances a lot, so I'm not wasting money every month with stuff that I'm not even aware that I'm paying for. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. All right. So the LA Clippers taking a hit with Bogdan Bogdanovic being out for the foreseeable future. I guess we're still waiting on the official timetable. So what is this going to do for the Clippers rotation? Honestly, I think it's very simple. Starting lineup stays the same. You got James, Brad, Kawhi, John Collins, and Zoo. But now off the bench, it's much simpler. You have CP3. Now there's no more DNP talks with CP3. Although, again, I don't know what would have happened if we had 11 players. I hope we get to find out when Bogey comes back. What would have happened if we had everyone healthy? Those were some tough decisions that Ty was going to have to make. But now we have CP3, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones, Nico Batum, and Brook Lopez. Now, here's the thing about that lineup. I don't think that you can put all those guys out there at once. And why is that? Because you have two guys that are great defenders, right? But not great shooters. And then you have three really solid shooters. Chris Paul probably being the best shooter of the three in terms of all over the floor when we consider the mid-range area. Because one thing I cannot stand about modern basketball discourse is people only consider shooting three-point shooting, and that's not basketball. It's not basketball. Being able to shoot from everywhere on the court is basketball. Chris Paul, to me, is the best shooter when you count off the dribble of these three. Now, catch and shoot, that's a different conversation. Three-pointers, that's a different conversation. But regardless, we have three good shooters in that starting lineup, two not-so-great shooters, in that bench unit with Derek and Chris Dunn. If you put all of them together at once, here's what you're going to do. You're going to run Chris Paul is the only self-creator. That's where Bogey would have been good. He's another guy that can kind of create his own shot or create and pick and roll. Now it's only Chris Paul. So CP3 would be running pick and pop with Brook Lopez every possession. And what teams are going to do is they're going to rotate off of Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn and leave them open to force the swing to them for open shots. That is what teams are going to do. And having both of them on the floor together at once concerns me a little bit when we don't have the offensive firepower to make up for it. So the solution is now we go 10 deep without, a complication of having 11 guys, but we stagger Kawhi Leonard. Honestly, I just think one of Brad, Harden, or Kawhi need to be in the game at all times. We can have James Harden and Kawhi on the bench together. I actually think we can, but Brad needs to be out there then with Chris Paul. So sometimes Nico Batum out of the game. Sometimes one of Chris Dunn or Derek Jones Jr. out of the game. Nico Batum is going to be the one that's most okay with like sitting out and sacrificing. Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn, I think this just getting Bradley Beal and getting all these guys just kind of hurt them. If one of them were starting, I think it would make a lot more sense. And honestly, now that Bogey's hurt, it would really be beneficial if Bradley Beal was a sixth man, because then he could run his unit with Chris Paul, and then you still have a point of attack guy in each lineup for balance. But it doesn't seem like we're going to be doing that. So when we go to the bench, I think Brad because we don't want Harden playing with Chris Paul too much in 2026. It's not 2018. It's not 2019. They both don't move without the ball. They're very stagnant. They're not the most willing catch and shoot three-point guys, and they dribble a lot, and they're great creators. They do a lot of the same things. They're going to play together at times, but I wouldn't have them on the court together too much, especially because defensively they make us slower and not as good. So for me, Brad is the guy, or Kawhi, that we have with Chris Paul. So we have one of Kawhi or Brad in that lineup, and then we kind of work the rotation in a smart fashion. Because Nico Batum is not going to need too many minutes. He's on the older side. He's not going to complain. But that's the 10-man rotation right then and there. CP3, Chris, DJ, Nico, Brook Lopez coming off that bench. And I think obviously we, as I said, we can't play all of them at once, the bench, but we can definitely play all 10 of those guys in a game, and we can consistently do it throughout the season. And I think we have a very solid chance of having a very good team with these 10 players. So the rotation, I think it's simple what the adjustment is. You have CP3 now handling the ball primarily in that second unit when James Harden's out of the game. You got to bring in another good offensive player that's a little bit more of a self-creator than Brook Lopez, because he would literally be the second best creator on the team if you throw it down to him and let him make a play. But he's not going to be doing too much of that at this age. So it's got to be one of Kawhi or Bradley Beal in the game with that second unit. As far as Bogdan Bogdanovic, his stats last year for the Clippers in 30 games, he averaged 11 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal a game if you round up. He averaged 0.7 steals. And then in the playoffs, that's where it was really tough because Bogey he didn't give us enough. He went from 11 points to 6 points. And, 5-point difference in a series, that's a big difference. And he shot 36, 29, 86 split. So the only category that he was satisfactory was the free throw percentage. 36% from the field and 29 from three, and it was primarily open shots that hurt him. Now, granted, every shot in the postseason feels that much bigger. And when we play a stagnant offense where guys aren't touching the ball very much, it can put more pressure on guys and it can take them out of rhythm. And I think that is a relevant part of this, this conversation when it comes to guys just going cold in the playoffs. And it's a conversation a lot of times with Harden teams that it happens. And I think that's not just a Harden thing. It's just players that hold the ball a lot. And when the ball's not moving, the ball has energy. When guys get the ball, even just touching the ball, it puts them in a better rhythm. So, but I'm not fully excusing Bogdanovic and saying it's all on the lack of ball movement. Bogey needed to play better, needed to shoot better. But yeah, that's the solution. Our rotation's simple. We have 10 guys now, really good players. When Kawhi's out, Derrick Jones Jr. slots into that starting lineup. And then now you have a 9-man rotation. And I would stagger, same thing, Beal, or I would just play Beal with Chris Paul. And then sometimes you're probably going to have Chris Paul and Harden playing together. It is what it is. But without Kawhi, we have an answer. Without James Harden, we just slot Chris Paul into the starting lineup. Without Beal, we put in one of the point of attack defenders in the starting lineup. I mean, we have answers to everything now. And that's where Lawrence Frank and Trent Redden and the coaching staff, front office, whoever it is involved in these decisions, should get a lot of credit because we are prepared in this regular season for any sort of injury or multiple guys going down. We have the depth to get through it. Now, coming up, going to be talking about why this helps Ty Lue so much, unfortunately. Well, I wouldn't say unfortunately that, but unfortunately due to an injury. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right. Let's talk about why I believe this actually helps Ty Lue. So we know that in 2023, Ty had a lot of options, a lot of players around the same level. And he did not do a very good job balancing those minutes and playing the guys that deserve to be playing. Very quickly, we saw that Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris had kind of fallen off. And it wasn't until February where he subbed out Reggie Jackson from that starting lineup. And it wasn't until March where we took Marcus Morris Sr. out of that starting lineup. And Terrence Mann, Robert Covington, these guys had earned their time. And Ty Lue really mismanaged things. I think his relationships with Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson were so strong that it kind of, made it tough for him to take them out of the rotation, especially after, they had become such integral parts of this organization, this franchise. Reggie Jackson was a literal cult hero. And Marcus Morris, grew to get a lot of playing time and a lot of recognition. And, that 2021 run, you can't say that we'd get to the conference finals without Senior and without Reggie Jackson. That performance that Senior had and Reggie Jackson had to support Paul George in Game 5 of that Jazz series does not get talked about enough, to be honest with you. So the biggest thing that I feared when we got these 11 rotation level guys is Ty Lue has a lot of tough decisions. Ty Lue and the coaching staff have a lot of choices. How are we going to balance it? How are we going to find a way to get 11 guys minutes and then keep everybody happy, or just not give somebody minutes on a given night and keep them happy? Well, now he doesn't really have to worry about that. And I talked about, and everybody knows, if it's not going to be 11 guys all the time. We're going to have injuries. We're going to have load management. It is a thing. So we'll be fine. But when everyone's healthy, what are we going to do? Now we start the season out, most likely, we got a month and change of the season. Likely Bogey's going to be out. This simplifies Ty's job a lot. And now there's really just how much do you play guys, what rotations you use. But in terms of who plays, who doesn't, he doesn't even have to worry about that anymore. It's those 10 guys right there. The starting 5, Chris Paul, Derek, Chris, Nico, Chris Dunn, Nico, and Brooke. So this really does help Ty in ways. And I hope that Bogey, when he comes back, we'll see how he can fit into that rotation. Hopefully he's fitting into a very successful team that's rolling at the time when he does come back. But yeah, Ty, Lawrence Frank talked about, we know what it's like when we have too many good players and too many choices and how that can hurt the team. And I didn't know. We were all, waiting to see what Ty did. But now it's very simple what needs to happen. It's those 10 guys are going to play. We're going to wait for Bogey to come back. One guy's out, then we play 9 guys. It's very simple. 2 guys out, we probably play 8 guys. But if you want to go 9, Jordan Miller, here you come, buddy. So I am feeling pretty good in the sense of like our team. I obviously feel horrible for Bogey. I wish him the absolute best in recovery. He's been an awesome member of the team since he's gotten here, but it's not the end of the world. If there was one player that you asked me, man, who could you survive the most without? I'd probably say Bogey. And the reason why I'm not saying Chris Paul is because I truly believe that when James Harden's out of the game, he's going to give us a high level pick and roll ball handling kind of guy. Whereas I wouldn't call Bradley Beal a high level pick and roll ball handling kind of guy. Same with Bogey. I would consider Beal a slightly better version in that sense. They can pull up on a mid-range jump shot or for a mid-range jump shot going both ways off screens, but they're not the best passers. They're just good. They're above average. Chris Paul is a pick and roll god. It's what he does. I've talked about it. Mount Rushmore pick and rolls with Harden, with Stockton. You know what I mean? With, I don't know who the other guy would be, Luka, LeBron, I don't know. But I would not say Chris Paul. Even though I was thinking maybe he should get some DNPs because Bogey is making $14 million a year, $15 million a year. So CP3 being on a smaller contract and being as old as he is, I figured he or Nico Batum would catch those DNPs if everybody played or if we had everybody healthy. But I don't agree with Nico Batum catching DNPs at all. I think at times he was underutilized last season. And I know he's older. We want to save him for the long haul, but he's not prehistoric. He can get some minutes. And now we have John Collins. We don't even need to rely on Nico as like our best power forward, quote unquote, because I still consider Kawhi Leonard a small forward. Nico in today's NBA is a power forward. When he first entered the league, he's a small forward, but we've downsized lineups for spacing these days. So now he's a power forward with his size and length. But John Collins is, could have been a power forward maybe even back then, like in the early 2010s or 2000s because of his, his frame. So even with Nico probably getting minutes every game now, we're in a position where I still don't think we should sit him out. He's still too good to be getting DNPs. But as I said, Ty Lue's job has been made easier, in my opinion, now, where we don't have to think about who's not playing. Now we got 10 guys ready to go. And I still think we can get off to the season flying. I really do. I believe that we still have enough depth to get over it, to get past it. And I'm wishing Bogey the absolute best in recovery. So, I mean, it all begins with Kawhi. Him being healthy to start a season, that makes all the difference. Having a full training camp, being ready to go, that matters. And now you get Chris Paul in the mix, another vocal leader, a true vocal leader. I think it's going to be great. So, Bogey, we wish you well. We hope you come back soon. I'll be keeping all of you updated on the diagnosis in terms of how long he is out. But yes, that is the deal. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on the road to 8,000 subscribers before the end of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we're 21st place in terms of subscriber count for Locked On, like NBA channels. We want to be in that top 20 at least. We need to show everybody what Clipper Nation's all about. Right now we're at 7.41K subscribers. We need to get to 8K before the season. And by the way, thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast where there's no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.